King Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QinReview. That is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QinReview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Glasgow Times, 4th of June. News. Cash for subway to help with access for disabled people. By Catherine Hunter. Funding of £150,000 has been secured from SPT, Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, to improve the accessibility of Glasgow's subway stations. The money will be used to enhance pedestrian access and make the public transport network inclusive to all by removing barriers for disabled people as well as those with mobility impairments. It will also help the work being carried out to integrate bus services, the subway and wider sustainable travel networks. The investment supports the delivery of regional and national transport and will help ensure the public transport system is accessible and well connected. It comes after plans to increase opening hours on the Glasgow subway during Fridays and weekends was approved, which will come into effect once the modernisation of the line is complete. Under the new schedule, trains will be able from 6:30 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. on Sundays. They will also run for an extra hour on Fridays and Saturdays, closing at midnight. From Monday to Thursday, it will continue to run from 6:30 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. The new opening hours are expected to start at some time in 2027. SPT capital funding has also been secured for 2026-27 to improve bus accessibility across the city. This includes £150,000 to deliver 3 fixed bus lane enforcement cameras, strengthening compliance at critical locations and supporting more reliable journey times and improved network performance. A further £150,000 has been awarded to progress design work for the proposed Southern City Centre bus hub at Osborne Street. This investment will play a key role in supporting ongoing redevelopment in the area. A council officer said, SPT funding in the financial year 2026-27 notes that funding has been fixed for 3 fixed-year bus enforcement cameras. We have also secured funding to progress some of the city centre bus hubs and additional improvements to subway stations. These measures are intended to improve compliance, reliability, connectivity and inclusive access. By Catherine Hunter. Read by Gordon Brown. The Glasgow Times, 4th of June. News. Jagtar Singh Johal urges UK action after 8 years in Indian jail. By Aidan Maxwell. A British man has described himself as stuck in a broken country with a broken judicial system after spending more than 8 years behind bars in India. Jagtar Singh Johal, 39, from Dumbarton, was arrested in 2017, just weeks after his wedding, and has been detained ever since. Despite being acquitted last year on charges of financially supporting a terror group, he still faces federal charges in India based on the same allegations. His family and MP are now urging Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper to secure his release during her current visit to India. Douglas McAllister, Labour MP for West Dunbartonshire, said there could be no higher priority on this trip than securing the freedom of a young British man who has been unjustly imprisoned for almost 9 years. I have made this case to the Foreign Secretary personally, stressing the need for urgent action. It is not enough to raise the case or call for faster progress. Following his acquittal in Punjab, all remaining charges against Jagtar Singh Johal should be dropped so he can return home to Dumbarton. A group of United Nations experts has described Johal's detention as arbitrary and said he has been subjected to a form of physical torture. During a recent consular visit, Johal was informed of Cooper's upcoming trip to Delhi and reportedly told staff, "I'm stuck in a broken country with a broken judicial system." His brother, Gurpreet Singh Johal, said the family has repeatedly shared a plan with Cooper to secure his release and hopes this visit will lead to concrete action. Gurpreet said, "Each time a foreign minister travels to India for meetings, a part of me believes that Jagtar will be on the plane home with them. We look for tiny signs of progress and reasons to hope, and each time the disappointment is crushing. When I met Yvette Cooper last year, we presented a clear plan to get Jagtar home. This visit is our big chance to put it into action. She has all the tools to succeed where 7 other foreign secretaries have failed. It would be devastating to hear the same weak excuses all over again." Cooper is scheduled to meet her Indian counterpart, Jumama Jasankana, on Thursday. The campaign group Reprieve, which has been supporting the Johal family, maintains there is no legal case against him. Dan Dolan, Deputy Chief Executive of Reprieve, said an Indian court last year acquitted Jagtar on all charges for lack of evidence, but he remains detained due to 8 zombie cases based on the same allegation and the same torture confession. This kind of double jeopardy is prohibited in India's constitution and international law. As UN legal experts recently communicated to the Indian authorities, the only just resolution is for the charges to be dropped and Jagtar released immediately. It's time for the Foreign Secretary to negotiate with her Indian counterparts and get this done. The Foreign Office has said it continues to raise concerns with the Indian authorities and that Cooper will do so again during her visit. A Foreign Office spokesperson said, "We continue to raise concerns about Johal's prolonged detention at every opportunity, with the Government of India and the Foreign Secretary will do so again tomorrow. We have made clear that faster progress is needed to reach a resolution, including a full investigation into Johal's allegation of torture." Cooper's diplomatic trip to Asia has also included a visit to China, where she vowed to continue raising the case of imprisoned British citizen Jimmy Lai with the Chinese government. The Foreign Secretary said a really important working relationship had been established between the UK and China, but she continues to face calls for a stronger stance on human rights and national security issues. By Aidan Maxwell. Read by Gordon Brown. The Glasgow Times, 4th of June. News. Stephen Lyons to fight extradition to Spain at Amsterdam hearing. By Rosie Lewis. Stephen Lyons faces a court showdown in Amsterdam today. As it emerged, he will fight extradition to Spain. The 45-year-old was arrested in Bali, Indonesia, as part of an international probe involving police in Spain and Scotland, before being flown under police guard to a high-security unit in the Netherlands, ahead of today's so-called surrender hearing. Authorities in Spain want Lyons returned to the Costa del Sol, where he is accused of involvement in a multi-million-pound money laundering plot linked to serious organised crime. It had earlier been claimed that Lyons hoped to be granted bail if he agreed to return to Spain to face justice, but his legal team has now confirmed he will resist extradition. According to BBC Scotland, a lawyer representing Lions has confirmed his intention to argue against the move, which is linked to Operation Armoram, the Spanish-led investigation into the activities of the notorious North Glasgow crew. The decisions on Lions' fate is expected to be made at a later hearing on June the 18th. Police at home and abroad carried out a series of coordinated raids as part of the ongoing investigation into the criminal network, a probe that predated the murders of Stephen's brother Eddie Lyons Jr., 46, and his pal Ross Monaghan, 43, in Spain on May the 31st last year. New details of the allegations Lyons faces are expected to emerge at today's Amsterdam hearing, including the reasons his lawyers will argue against his extradition to the same Spanish prison system currently housing the alleged gunman accused of murdering the Lyons duo in the Monaghan's bar bloodbath. Michael Riley, 45, of Liverpool, was recently moved from a jail in the south of Spain to a prison in the north. A move sources claim is in anticipation of Lyons' arrival should he lose his extradition fight. By Rosie Lewis, read by Gordon Brown. The Glasgow Times, 5th of June. News. Basketball and netball courts to open at Glasgow's Victoria Park, by Morgan Carmichael. World-class netball and basketball courts were officially open this month in a landmark move for West Glasgow. The newly refurbished courts, which are free to use, are set to open around noon on Sunday, June the 14th at Victoria Park. The upgraded facility now features 2 courts with rotating netball and basketball posts, allowing each court to be used for either sport. There has also been improvement to the paths running alongside the courts, which will be of particular use to wheelchair users. It comes after the basketball hoops suffered damage and poor fencing was spotted around the space. Sarah Gandon, a local resident sports consultant netball player and one of the community project leads on the project, said, "I grew up in this area, playing on these courts, so to say this is a lifelong passion project is pretty accurate. Since the upgrade of the tennis courts, we have battled to ensure that there is usable multi-sport space again, with facilities not just fit for purpose, but that bring equality and continue to be free to use, in a space that encourages all members of the community to be physically active. I hope everyone enjoys a vibrant space for years to come." We previously reported that Sarah claimed the changes made to the tennis courts essentially wiped out the netball court. To celebrate the opening on June the 14th, there will be an official ribbon cutting ceremony that will be performed by Councillor Lana Reid McConnell, Glasgow City Councillor for the Victoria Park Ward, Kieran Achara, MBE, former captain of the Scotland and Great Britain national basketball teams, and Lindsay Gallagher, former Scotland international netballer with over 88 international caps. Councillor Lana Reid McConnell hailed the development as a landmark moment for sport in the community and west of Glasgow. The ribbon cutting will be followed by an exhibition showcase featuring Highland Fever, Scotland's first men's and mixed netball team, and a local wheelchair basketball team celebrating the inclusive spirit the new courts are designed to inspire. The regeneration project was led by the community, particularly the Glasgow Netball Association and Victoria Park Community Trust, and was made possible due to a £32,000 grant from FCC Communities Foundation. It was supported by Glasgow City Council and Glasgow Life, as well as Sport Scotland National Lottery funded Sports Facilities Fund grant, with the Scottish Parliament hopes that with the Commonwealth Games coming to Glasgow, the facilities will provide an open access space for those inspired by the Games to get involved in playing basketball and netball in their local community. There is no booking required for the courts and they are open to all ages. By Morgan Carmichael, read by Gordon Brown. The Glasgow Times, 5th of June. News. Glasgow city centre footfall among best in UK as Scotland bucks trend. By Aidan Maxwell. Scottish high streets have defied a wider UK downturn in shopper numbers, with Glasgow city centre holding up better than many parts of the country. Footfall in May rose by 0.4% in Scotland, reversing a 5.2% drop recorded in April, as warmer weather tempted people back onto the streets and into retail parks. Glasgow saw slightly reduced footfall, but the Scottish Retail Consortium said the city still outperformed much of the rest of the UK thanks to resilient city centre trade. Scottish retail footfall just about stayed positive as the warm weather outweighed consumer concerns about the economy. Ewan MacDonald-Russell, deputy head of the Scottish Retail Consortium, said, "Footfall overall was up by 0.4%, the best figures in the UK, as Scots enjoyed the eventual arrival of the sunshine." He warned that despite the modest boost for places like Glasgow, retailers still face serious headwinds from global uncertainty, including tariff threats from the US and energy price pressures linked to the war in Iran. Whilst the figures may look like sunny, they remain significant clouds on the horizon. Consumer confidence remains depressed, he said, as a result of the costs accruing from the international instability. The new Scottish Government will need to tread carefully with their policy interventions. By contrast, retailers in Northern Ireland, England and Wales saw footfall fall by 1%, 3% and 5% respectively as the month wore on. According to the British Retail Consortium and data firm Sensormatic, footfall initially picked up as temperatures rose, but a heat wave towards the end of May saw shoppers in some areas shun crowded shopping centres and retail parks. BRC Chief Executive Helen Dickinson said, "While the warmer weather initially encouraged more people to the shops, the record-breaking temperatures at the end of the month resulted in a sharp decline in footfall, particularly at shopping centres and retail parks. Only high streets bucked the trend, as those who were out and about took the opportunity to pop in to their local stores." She added, "Households remain anxious about the long-term impact of the Iran conflict and inflation and expect prices to rise over the year. By tackling the inflationary pressures on the horizon, the government can help rebuild consumer confidence, ultimately supporting footfall." Andy Sumpter from Sensormatic said, "Consumer confidence may be edging up slightly, but it remains fragile, with geopolitical uncertainty continuing to weigh on discretionary spend." By Aidan Maxwell. Read by Gordon Brown. The Glasgow Times, 5th of June. News. Glasgow City Council not sympathetic to increasing parking. Exclusive by Nicole Mitchell. A councillor has said the local authority is not sympathetic to increasing parking spaces for residents during a public meeting about the rollout of bin hubs. Councillor Ken Andrew responded to residents raising concerns about the number of parking spaces that could be lost in Woodlands if the rollout of on-street bin hubs across the area goes ahead. A public meeting held at Garnet Hill Multicultural Centre on Wednesday and attended by the Glasgow Times drew a large crowd of residents from Woodlands who were invited to give feedback on the proposed hubs. Glasgow City Council is rolling out bin hubs across the city for flats and tenements that are unable to safely accommodate shared waste and recycling bins in external bin store areas. Kevin Howell, who is project manager for the rollout at the council, told the meeting the main reason for introducing the hubs is to improve safety for cleansing crews. He said there have been staff who have musculoskeletal injuries due to having to move bins up and down stairs during collections. Mr Howell also said the hubs are more efficient as they only require crews of 2, whereas close require crews of 6. The council says the hubs will expand the recycling options available to residents, including food waste, will reduce bin collections and help residents keep their back courts in better condition. However, residents raise concerns that what looks ideal in pictures isn't what we're seeing around Glasgow from areas where bin hubs have already been introduced, and said as a conservation area, more should be being done to preserve woodlands. Several residents shared their frustration over the fact that introducing the bin hubs will mean the area will lose several parking spaces, which they say they are already short of. One man who spoke at the meeting said locals are going to lose a lot of parking for no benefit. Others also asked if there would be a reduction in the price of residents' parking permits if spaces were lost, as they are more likely to have to park further from their home. It was confirmed they would not. Councillor Andrews said council is not sympathetic to increasing car parking and is against multiple car ownership. He also commented that Woodlands residents live within walking distance of the city centre, have access to the subway and can cycle, which was met by anger from many of the attendees. West Princes Street and Queen's Crescent already have on-street bins with pictures displayed at the meeting showing many of them overflowing with rubbish dumped in the street around them. One resident of West Princes Street said the issues people are facing are not to do with the bins themselves, but there is no waste management system, with many agreeing there needs to be more frequent collections. They also say there have been incidents of building materials being dumped in the street. An attendee said that despite rising council tax prices, I don't see me getting my money's worth. Another resident said fly tipping around bins is attracting rats and seagulls, with many residents agreeing that there is an issue with vermin in the area. One woman who lives in a basement flat says she is unable to open her windows due to rats coming into her home. Mr Howell was also asked how elderly or disabled residents are expected to open the bin lids. He said the lids in the new bins are lighter, but highlighted the council does individual accessibility assessments for people who may request their own bin. Residents from Garnet Hill, where bin hubs were introduced last year, also spoke about their experience. Bill Beckett, chair of Garnet Hill Neighbourhood Watch, said there were concerns over bin hubs being left unlocked by cleansing staff, leading to fears people could be injured or cars damaged if bins were removed. The Glasgow Times reported on the issue in July last year. Mr Beckett also said the bins had sometimes been returned to the hubs facing the wrong direction, meaning there were occasions where residents had to stand in the road to open them. Another Garnet Hill resident said the hubs are not being maintained or cleaned, while another agreed there needs to be more frequent collections. In a show of hands at the end of the meeting, the vast majority of those in the room said they were against the rollout of bin hubs in Woodlands. Exclusive by Nicole Mitchell. Read by Gordon Brown. Glasgow Times, 5th of June. News. Work to regenerate North Tory Glen to be completed this year. By Catherine Hunter. Work to regenerate North Tory Glen is expected to be completed this year after more than a decade of redevelopment. North Tory Glen is one of Glasgow City Council's TRAs, Transformational Regeneration Areas, which are long-term housing-led urban renewal projects developed alongside Transforming Communities Glasgow. They aim to replace poor quality social housing with mixed tenure communities, as well as create jobs and improve local environments. North Tory Glen was a 24-hectare derelict site located between Mount Florida and Rutherglen, north of Prospect Hill Road. Since Phase 1 of the TRA project launched in 2014, the site has seen all but 50 of the 1960s built homes and shops demolished and replaced with 393 new mixed tenure homes for sale and rent, It is on track to become the first completed TRA. During the meeting, Councillor Paul Leinster, speaking at the Economic Committee of Glasgow City Council, said, "I want to comment on the TRAs and their effectiveness in my ward in North Tory Glen. We've now got a brand new park and we've got hundreds of new homes. I think the last of which will probably be finished later on this year. I'd like to comment on the effectiveness of that model and how clearly we've seen vacant and derelict land sit for decades and decades. There's a very clear sort of timeline that 20 years in the grand scheme of things is not very long for the huge amount of work that has been done in the area. It is a great module." A council officer confirmed that North Tory Glen will be the first TRA to be completed, with the programme halfway through completion. They said, "I think it is a really great example of bringing together all those different investment pots and all those different partners. The Transforming Communities Glasgow, which is a partnership between ourselves, Weekly Homes Glasgow and the Scottish Government, has been fundamental to that success. We're actually only halfway through the TRA programme, and regeneration does take a long time. It has obviously taken longer to get onto Red Road, Ibrox and Govan. Because it is a programme approach, it means none are forgotten and we move on. The commitment has been made. There are really positive discussions about getting additional investment around Red Road so we can have a development site within that community." By Catherine Hunter, read by Gordon Brown.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 8th of June. 21 are arrested as police hit drink drivers and speeders in Eastern Bartonshire. An article written by Amy Miles. A 12% drop in road traffic collisions has been recorded since the launch of a new roads policing plan. The Eastern Bartonshire Roads Policing Plan, introduced by Police Scotland in January this year, targets the 5 main causes of serious and fatal collisions. These include speeding, drink and drug driving, seatbelt offences, mobile phone use and careless or dangerous driving. Officers have carried out targeted patrols throughout the area, focusing on areas identified by residents as being of particular concern. Sergeant John Fitzsimmons of the Eastern Bartonshire Community Policing Team said, "Road safety remains one of our top priorities, and the Eastern Bartonshire Roads Policing Plan demonstrates our commitment to making our roads safer for everyone. The locations we patrol are directly influenced by information provided by our communities. By taking a zero-tolerance approach towards the 5 primary causes of serious and fatal collisions, we're not only holding offending drivers to account, but helping to prevent harm before it occurs. We're pleased to see a 12% reduction in collisions since the launch of the plan. However, our work continues. We'd encourage members of the public to continue reporting concerns to us so that we can target our patrol activity where it will have the greatest impact." The plan uses an intelligence-led approach to direct officer patrols in areas where road safety improvements are most needed. Police Scotland will continue to work alongside partners such as the Road Policing Unit and the Safety Camera Partnership to further improve road safety. Since the launch of the plan, 20 fixed penalty notices have been issued for speeding offences, while 6 were issued for seatbelt offences. In addition, 21 people have been arrested for drink and drug driving. A further 48 charges have been brought for other offences, including dangerous and reckless driving. Members of the public are encouraged to continue raising road safety concerns with the police to help shape enforcement activity and to make a direct impact in their communities. Residents can contact Police Scotland via 101 or reach out to their local community policing team with specific concerns. An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Amy Miles. Glasgow Times Politics on Monday the 8th of June. Scottish Government Minister says that he would consider a knife amnesty. An article written by Ava White. The Scottish Government says that we must make sure that we're doing all that we can to prevent young people picking up knives. The Justice Secretary, Neil Gray, revealed that he would consider knife amnesties in the wake of 2 separate trials in the past week, which saw teenagers convicted of killing their victims using blades. On Friday, the 5th of June, Jay Stewart, who is 18, and a 15-year-old boy who cannot be named for legal reasons, were found guilty at the High Court in Glasgow of the murder of East Kilbride teenager Caden Moy on Irvine Beach on the 17th of May 2025. The pair's friend, Cole Turley, who's 18, had previously pleaded guilty to murder at the same court after fatally stabbing 16-year-old Caden amid a dispute between rival gangs from East Kilbride. Knife amnesties allow individuals to safely and anonymously dispose of bladed weapons or offensive items without fear of prosecution for possession. Mr Gray told BBC Scotland's Sunday Show, "Of course we would consider the likes of knife amnesties if that's something that the likes of the police and other partners feel would be helpful." He continued, "The sale of knives to under-18s is already illegal, and there are very strong laws in place to ensure that the sale of knives does not happen. With under-18s, I think the question around culture is one that I absolutely agree with, and we must make sure that we're doing all that we can to prevent young people picking up a knife in the first place, involving themselves in gangs, and to ensure that there is diversionary activity. That's where our investments are absolutely targeted." Another teenager was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 17 years on Thursday the 4th of June for the murder of 22-year-old John McNabb on Great Junction Street in Leith on the 2nd of September 2025. The 17-year-old, who cannot be named for legal reasons, also pleaded guilty to the attempted murder of a 16-year-old on Edinburgh's Portobello Beach months earlier. The SNP minister described the murders of Caden Moy and John McNabb as shocking, amid concerns over reported rising levels of knife possession amongst young people in Scotland. He added, "These 2 cases are shocking and incredibly traumatic. My heart goes out to the families of Caden and John for the significant trauma that they must be experiencing, and we will put the needs of victims and the safety of the wider society central to the work that we continue to do over the course of this 5-year Parliament." During the last amnesty in 2006, people handed over more than 12,500 blades to police without facing any criminal charges, BBC News reports. This included machetes, meat cleavers, bayonets and axes. Figures from the Scottish Violence Reduction Unit show a 15% increase in knife possession amongst 11 to 15-year-olds between 2019 to 2020 and 2024 to 2025. Mr Gray noted that conversations with police on tackling knife crime were ongoing. However, he added that the Scottish Government was committed to taking a preventative approach, and its focus remained on making sure that young people never picked a knife up in the first place. An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Ava White, and read today by Howell Jones. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 8th of June. Lifestyle. A crowd gathers for a famous outdoor ceilidh at a Glasgow museum. An article written by Ava White. It was all smiles as dance partners lined up for a famous outdoor ceilidh on the steps of a Glasgow museum. The free event kicked off outside the Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum in the city's West End on Sunday afternoon. It was held as part of Westfest, a community-led cultural festival taking place between the 1st and the 28th of June. Revellers gathered at the steps which face onto Argyle Street, eagerly waiting for their cue to start dancing. With no tickets required and the promise of a live musical performance from the Glasgow Folk Music Workshop, it was not one to miss. Attendees were encouraged to learn as they went and join in all of the dances. This year's Westfest features around 300 events at more than 60 venues across Glasgow's West End. The festival is now in its 4th year and aims to build on last year's edition, which attracted more than 110,000 visitors. Brendan McElroy, the festival director, previously said, "We're really proud of what we've put together this year. It's our biggest and most diverse programme yet, and it genuinely reflects the breadth of what the West End has to offer, from free community events on the streets and green spaces to Shakespeare in the Botanics and grassroots music at the university. Despite ongoing challenges in the arts sector, we've grown year on year through strong partnerships. For 2026, we're focused on sustaining that momentum while deepening our work with local residents and ensuring that culture remains accessible to everyone. Highlights of this summer programme include the Big Sunday on Kelvin Way on the 21st of June and free heritage talks at the Kelvin Hall on Mondays to Thursdays between the 1st and 25th of June. The Stand Comedy Club is also taking part for the first time, hosting a special fundraiser on the 24th of June in support of Westfest. The festival also includes an expanded schools and outreach programme with workshops, author events and talks for pupils and community groups in the area. It's part of Glasgow's 2026 Commonwealth Games Festival celebrations, connecting the West End with the city's wider cultural calendar. For more information, you can visit Westfest's website at www.westfest.uk. That's www.westfest.uk. An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Ava White. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 8th of June. Lifestyle. Iron Brew launches a new unmissable flavour, but fans are divided. An article written by Aidan Maxwell. Iron Brew has launched a bold new flavour for fans to try. A cherry version of the iconic Scottish drink is now on the shelves, expanding the brand's growing zero-sugar range, though early reactions have been mixed. Kenny Nicholson, the brand director at AG Bar, said, "Iron Brew is known for its great-tasting limited edition flavours, but cherry is a brand-new innovation for us. We're further strengthening Iron Brew Zero's presence in the chiller with another trending flavour innovation that's rooted in consumer insight and macro trend tracking to meet retailer needs. Combined with the iconic taste and unmissable chiller presence of Iron Brew, we're confident that the new range of Zero flavours will deliver incremental sales across the crucial summer months and beyond." The cherry flavour has already sparked debate online. One fan of the new drink said, 10 out of 10 for me. I love cherries and I love Iron Brew, so it's a match. It has a great cherry aftertaste to it." Others compared the flavour to sweets, with one person saying, "Reminds me of the jelly cherry sweets." Another drinker said, "Tastes like Iron Brew at first, but it has a Haribo cherry aftertaste. Decent." Not everyone was pleased, however. One critic said, "Nope, just no. Don't mess with perfection." Another commented, "Iron Brew doesn't need extra flavours." Some described it as sacrilege, while others took issue with the zero-sugar formula. One person said, "It's nice enough. You can definitely taste the two flavours fighting out for supremacy, but the diet part wins out, just has that diluted sharpness of Diet Original all through it." The new flavour follows the launch of the ice cream variant in April. The brand has also been in the spotlight for its recent World Cup advert, featuring a breakdancing Subo. Iron Brew Cherry joins the zero-sugar lineup from the brand. An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Aidan Maxwell. Glasgow Times News, on Monday the 8th of June. ScotRail's education drive proves a success. An article written by Aidan Maxwell. Almost 170,000 more train journeys have been paid for in advance following a major customer education campaign. ScotRail introduced the campaign ahead of plans to introduce a £10 minimum fare for boarding without a ticket, which will apply from the 1st of July. Since the start of May, the train operator has recorded 168,000 additional pre-purchase journeys. Analysis suggests that at least 13,000 of these journeys were previously fare dodgers. Phil Campbell, ScotRail's Customer Operations Director, said, "We're delighted that our education campaign to remind everyone of the importance of buying before boarding is proving to be successful. It's about making sure that customers understand the different ways that they can purchase a ticket before they start their journey." Fare evasion is estimated to cost Scotland's Railway £11 million annually, money that ScotRail says could be reinvested in better services. The campaign, launched on the 1st of April last year, focused on reminding passengers to purchase tickets before boarding, where facilities are available. ScotRail staff offered information on ticket purchasing options, including station ticket offices, self-service machines, the website and the ScotRail app. Signage, posters, station announcements and social media updates supported the message. The £10 minimum fare will apply only to passengers who had the opportunity to buy a ticket before boarding, but chose not to do so. For many short journeys, this penalty is significantly higher than the standard fare. A return ticket between Bishopbriggs and Glasgow Queen Street, for example, costs just £3. Independent analysis shows that 74% of ticketless journeys involved open ticket offices, while 90% began at stations with working ticket machines. ScotRail believes that the new policy could help cut down on antisocial behaviour, much of which is linked to fare evasion. The minimum fare will not apply where ticket offices are closed, machines are unavailable, or in cases where passengers cannot use them due to a disability. Since rejoining public ownership in 2022, ScotRail has increased its focus on revenue protection by introducing dedicated officers and better tools for frontline staff. Ticketless travel has fallen from 8.8% in April of 2022 to 2.98%. The revenue protection team now recovers around £2 million each year. Mr Campbell said fare evasion costs Scotland's Railway millions of pounds every year, and that is money which could otherwise be reinvested in improving services for customers. The introduction of a minimum fare from the 1st of July will help ensure fairness for the vast majority of honest, fare-paying customers who do the right thing and buy their ticket before they travel, while supporting our frontline teams in tackling deliberate ticketless travel. An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Aidan Maxwell. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 8th of June. Queen's Park Glasshouse is to close amid an unsustainable cost. An article written by Sarah Hilly. Queen's Park Glasshouse will close in August as the council says that operating costs are unsustainable. The move has sparked concern amongst locals and a public meeting is being held in protest over the decision on the B-listed structure. Staff working at the Southside facility are to be moved to other parts of the park service, and it's understood that the Scottish Rural College, which has held classes at the location, is also looking at other premises, according to the council. The council said that it's currently working on finding a new home for the remaining koi carp fish at the site, while nearly all other animals have already been rehomed. Councillor Soria Siddique said, "I've been inundated with complaints regarding the closure of the Queen's Park Glasshouse. For almost a decade, I've raised concerns about the disrepair of this important local asset. I've written to the Executive Director of Neighbourhoods, Regeneration and Sustainability at Glasgow City Council, and I'll be attending the public meeting next week to demonstrate my support and to listen to the aspirations and concerns of local residents." The Southside Central councillor added, "What remains of Glasgow's heritage must be preserved as a matter of priority. The voices of the local community must be at the heart of any decision-making process and future plans for the site." A Glasgow City Council spokesperson said, "Following the budget agreed by the council in February of 2023 that required us to make over £49 million worth of savings, we can confirm that we are moving towards the closure of Queen's Park Glasshouse in August of this year. Operating costs for services delivered by the council at the Glasshouse have been found to be unsustainable. Our staff at the Queen's Park Glasshouse have been advised of the situation and we're working with them to ensure that all colleagues are redeployed to other parts of the park service. We had hoped that the Scottish Rural College would extend their use of the Glasshouse, but we're now in discussions with the college about alternative options within the council's parks estate. We'll continue to work on identifying a suitable, sustainable use for the Glasshouse, and we're working with the Glasgow Building Preservation Trust on how best to maintain the building for a future tenant. Almost all of the animals previously kept at the Glasshouse have been appropriately rehomed, and we're currently working on a suitable home for the remaining koi carp." An article from the Glasgow Times, written by Sarah Hilly.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 9th of June 2026, from the Lifestyle section. 4 major retailers signed deals at the Forge Shopping Centre, Glasgow. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. 4 major high street retailers have reaffirmed their commitment to a Glasgow shopping centre with new investment and long-term lease deals. Peacocks and Bon Marché have signed 5-year lease renewals at the Forge shopping centre. The Forge has also secured new investment from Costa Coffee and Greggs, reflecting wider retail momentum at the site. Jodie Robertson, marketing coordinator at the Forge shopping centre, said, "To have 4 major retailers investing in the Forge at the same time is a real statement of confidence in what we're building here. These aren't just renewals, they're commitments to our community, and we're excited about what that means for shoppers in Parkhead and across Glasgow." Greggs is moving to a larger unit within the centre, which will allow it to expand its menu and introduce more seating for customers. This will create a comfortable place to take a break during shopping trips, according to centre management. Costa Coffee is also investing in its presence at the Forge. The coffee shop will close temporarily from June the 12th to June the 26th, 2026, to allow for a full refurbishment. The refit is expected to deliver a refreshed customer experience and a new, relaxed environment to enjoy a coffee in. The wave of leasing activity comes on the back of the Forge's recent expansion into leisure with the arrival of Pure Paddle. The addition of Pure Paddle and the reaffirmed commitment from key retailers signal an upward trend for the Forge as it looks ahead to 2026. For more information, visit www.forgeshopping.com. That's www.forgeshopping.com. And that article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 9th of June 2026, from the news section. Scott McTominay Glasgow mural given green light to stay by council. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. A giant mural of Scott McTominay's favourite overhead kick in Glasgow has been given the green light to stay after city planners ruled it is not a commercial advertisement. The 36-foot artwork on Somerville Drive in Mount Florida pays tribute to McTominay's stunning bicycle kick against Denmark during Scotland's World Cup qualifying victory at Hampden Park. The mural towers over Lesser Hampden and faces the west stand of Scotland's National Stadium. It was commissioned by the Scottish Football Association and Adidas and painted by London-based agency Global Street Art after its unveiling in February. City planners took the view that the mural is not a commercial advert, but rather a depiction of a moment in time. As such, showing McTominay wearing an Adidas Scotland shirt and Adidas F50 boots, as he was when he scored the goal, was considered accurate rather than promotional. The Napoli midfielder has been a key figure for Scotland since his debut in 2018, scoring 15 goals and earning 70 caps, the most recent coming in Scotland's World Cup warm-up against Bolivia in New Jersey on Saturday. The ruling contrasts with growing concern in the city over commercial murals exploiting planning loopholes. The Herald revealed in April that no consent was obtained for a large commercial mural promoting James McAvoy's film California Schemin', which appeared on the side of the Glasgow Collective building near the Barrowland Ballroom. The mural featured the film's tagline, "Get Rich or Try Lying," and the words "California Schemin'" in cinemas, April the 10th, promoting fresh calls from Glasgow Labour MSP Paul Sweeney for an end to firms exploiting the system. Temporary commercial murals with a lifespan of less than 4 weeks are being used to effectively sidestep the need for advertising consent by exploiting the 28-day rule for the temporary use of land contained within Scottish planning regulations. In June 2024, a mural featuring McTominay, Andy Robertson and Shay Adams appeared on a listed Denniston tenement to coincide with the UEFA European Championships, commissioned by Mobile Network EE as part of a campaign calling on fans to challenge hate in football. Despite being on a listed building in a conservation area, which would normally require both planning and advertising consent, no permission was sought and the mural was painted over within 28 days. Previous murals in the same Denniston location, including one for banking brand, the current account switch service, and shoe retailer Clark's, followed the same pattern of appearing and vanishing within the 28-day window. On that occasion, BAFTA Scotland award-winning photographer and filmmaker Chris Leslie warned it was a slippery slope to massive semi-permanent ads across the city. Glasgow is already home to the city centre mural trail, which launched in 2014 to revitalise vacant sites and celebrate local culture, and has since become a major draw for visitors and a point of civic pride. And that article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 9th of June 2026, from the news section. National Records of Scotland reveals decline in birth rates, and this article was written by Beth Oliver. Birth rates are continuing to decline across Scotland. According to new provisional figures from the National Records of Scotland, 11,347 births were registered between January and March, marking a 2.6% drop compared to the average for the first quarter. During the same period, 16,382 deaths were recorded, 6.5% lower than the expected figure of 17,527. The leading causes of death remained cancer, respiratory diseases, and Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. Meanwhile, a total of 170 deaths were attributed to influenza in the first quarter, and significant decline from last year. Philippa Haxton, Head of Vital Events Statistics at National Records of Scotland, said, "The number of deaths from influenza was less than half of the number in the same period of 2025, when there were 439 deaths. These figures reflect the earlier peak to the influenza season in 2025-26 compared to the previous winter." Death numbers were lower than expected across all major age groups during the first 3 months of 2026. There were 51 infant deaths, resulting in a rate of 4.5 per 1,000 live births, which is higher than the first quarter average of 41 deaths. This marks the joint highest quarterly infant death rate since the fourth quarter of 2011. While the long-term trend in infant mortality has been downward, the rate has edged up slightly over the past 5 years. There were also 37 stillbirths recorded during this period, equating to 3.3 per 1,000 live and stillbirths. This figure represents the second lowest first quarter rate over the past decade. Elsewhere in the data, marriage numbers saw a small rise, with 3,310 couples tying the knot, 2.2% above the first quarter average of 3,240. Of those, 122, 3.7%, were same-sex marriages, slightly below the first quarter average of 129, 4% of all marriages. And that article was written by Beth Oliver. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026, from the Lifestyle section. Newton Mearns pupil wins Scotland World Cup drawing competition, and this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. A 9-year-old pupil has won a World Cup-themed drawing competition with a creative tribute to Scotland. Mila Louisa Caldwell, a Primary 5 pupil at St Caudocks Primary in Newton Mearns, won the Scottish Football Supporters Association SFSA competition with a drawing that includes haggis, a Highland cow, and Scott McTominay's famous overhead kick. Her artwork was included in a booklet presented to the Scotland team before their departure to the United States for the World Cup. Mila Louisa said, "It felt amazing when they told me that I had won the competition. It's really cool that it's in the booklet and that the Scotland players got to see it." She said it took her about 2 weeks to complete the drawing and explained the inspiration behind it. Mila Louisa said, "Scott McTominay is my favourite football player, so that's why he's in the picture doing the overhead kick. In my poem, I mention the Highland cow, haggis, groundskeeper Willie from The Simpsons, holding Iron Brew, and our Willie. It's all about Scotland." Former Rangers and Scotland defender Dave McPherson, who played in the 1990 World Cup, visited St Caudocks to present Mila Louisa with a signed photo from John McGinn. Dave McPherson said, "Mila Louisa's drawing was fantastic and it really stood out." The visit also gave pupils the chance to ask Dave McPherson questions about his football career and World Cup experiences. Paul Goodwin, co-founder of the SFSA, praised the standard of entries. He said, "We were thrilled to see entries coming in from across Scotland, showing just how much this meant to children everywhere. Mila Louisa's entry was exceptional and a very worthy winner." And that article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026, from the news section. Person dies after being hit by train between Lenzie and Croy. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. A person has died after being hit by a train on the line between Lenzie and Croy. British Transport Police said they were called to Croy railway station at around 8:15 a.m. on Tuesday, June the 9th, following reports of a casualty on the tracks. The incident is not being treated as suspicious. A British Transport Police spokesperson said, "Officers were called at around 8:15 a.m. this morning, 9th of June, to reports of a casualty on the tracks at Croy railway station. Officers responded with paramedics. However, sadly, a person was pronounced dead at the scene. The incident is not being treated as suspicious. A Scottish Ambulance Service spokesperson said, "We can confirm we were called and dispatched one ambulance and our special operations team to the scene. It's still ongoing." When life is difficult, Samaritans are available day or night, 365 days a year. You can call them for free on 116123 or visit samaritans.org. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026, from the news section. Police Scotland helicopter use up 30% amid Glasgow gang crackdown. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. Police Scotland's helicopter is playing a growing role in targeting Glasgow's gangland violence, with new figures showing use of the Force chopper has increased by almost 30% in 3 years. The crew flew 793 hours in 2025 compared to 568 the previous year and 537 in 2023, according to the Daily Record. In the same period, firearms-related deployments rose from 39 to 59. Call-outs to trace suspected persons jumped from 52 to 111, and vehicle pursuits increased from 51 to 92. The surge in activity comes since Police Scotland launched Operation Portalage in March last year, a major offensive against organised crime sparked by a violent feud between the Glasgow-based Lions and Daniel crime families. To date, more than 60 people have been arrested and a number handed lengthy jail terms. Glasgow made the most use of the helicopter, with officers in the city calling on its support for 209 incidents last year. That was followed by Lanarkshire with 157, Ayrshire with 113 and Renfrewshire with 56. The helicopter is also used to locate missing persons, respond to welfare concerns, and police football matches, demonstrations and other public gatherings. The deployment figures were released by Police Scotland under Freedom of Information. Graham Pearson, former Director General of the Scottish Crime and Drug Enforcement Agency, was involved in introducing the police helicopter more than 35 years ago and welcomed its expanding role. He said, "If you're looking for a pre-planned effort for serious and organised crime, then the helicopter up in the air can see if property is being disposed of or if people are escaping out of a window. If folk are hiding guns, then the helicopter can see what is going on. If the High Court needs photographs of a scene of crime, then no one can do it better than a helicopter." Over the years, there has been increasing awareness of the value of the helicopter. It covers such a sizable piece of ground quickly. He added, "Officers on foot would take 2 or 3 times as long to cover the same area if they are giving chase to a suspect. It is far more efficient to do it by helicopter, even though the helicopter is an expensive resource. The experience that the crews have gathered over the years has built up an expertise. A helicopter can also identify problems on the ground during an operation or arrest before they occur." David Kennedy, General Secretary of the Scottish Police Federation, said helicopter crews have also proven highly effective in identifying cannabis farms because of the heat they give off. He said, "We need to use every means possible to fight crime and bring offenders to justice. If you're searching for or chasing a suspect, then you don't have to have police cars doing the same. If you're following from the air, it is much safer for both the officers and the public. It is an asset that we wouldn't want to lose. Would we like more? Yes. But it is just the cost." Chief Inspector Andy Scott said, "Police Scotland covers the largest and most diverse geographical area in the United Kingdom, and this unique landscape makes the helicopter a key national asset which supports local policing and communities. By using the helicopter and drones, our air support unit can help officers on the ground locate missing people, save lives, pursue suspects, and support crowd safety at events." And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026, from the news section. Paisley e-scooter fall leaves 2 boys in Glasgow hospital, and this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. 2 boys aged 10 and 12 were seriously injured after falling from an electric scooter on High Street in Paisley. The boys were found around 9:15 p.m. on Monday, the 8th of June 2026. Both boys are being treated at the Royal Hospital for Children in Glasgow. Sergeant Adnan Alam from Glasgow's Helen Street Road Policing Unit said, "Sergeant Adnan Alam is appealing to anyone who witnessed the boys on an e-scooter around this time or saw them crashing or falling from the e-scooter to contact police immediately. Anyone who has captured the incident on dashcam or has CCTV footage is also asked to get in touch. Inquiries remain ongoing." And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell.
From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 10th of June 2026, from the news section. Coatbridge pupils tackle hygiene poverty with soap glow. A report by Beth Oliver. North Lanarkshire primary school pupils are helping to change lives through a social enterprise. Soap Glow, led and supported by Primary 7 pupils at St Barnard's Primary in Coatbridge, delivers free hygiene products to families across Lanarkshire through a practical, sustainable scheme rooted in community and compassion. Each month, up to 200 people benefit from the project, receiving neatly packaged boxes filled with everyday hygiene essentials. Karen Shields, who co-founded the initiative with community volunteer Amanda Moore, said, "The idea is simple but powerful. Pupils collect used cans, which are then recycled to generate vouchers. These vouchers are used to buy essential hygiene items such as shampoo, soap, period products and deodorant. Everyday basics that food banks do not usually provide. Our pupils then sort and pack the items into hygiene boxes ready for distribution to local families." The project began as a response to a noticeable gap in support for families in Coatbridge, but has since broadened its reach to help communities across Lanarkshire. Amanda highlighted the often unseen issue of hygiene poverty and the practical impact of the project. She said, "A lot of people don't realise that hygiene poverty is a very real issue. Essential items like shampoo, deodorant and period products often fall through the cracks and aren't always available through the usual support routes. That's why Soap Glow exists, to help fill that gap in a practical, compassionate way. What makes the project so special is its circular approach. The children are literally taking items that would otherwise go to waste and turning them into something meaningful for local families. It's a simple idea, but it has a powerful impact, linking sustainability directly with community support. Most importantly, the pupils are the driving force behind it all. They're not just taking part in a school project, they're actively creating positive change in their own communities. From an empty bottle or can to a hygiene box in someone's hands, that whole journey is something people really connect with. That's where the real magic of Soap Glow lies. Both Karen and Amanda expressed their gratitude for the backing they received from the wider community, including donations of cans and bottles from bars, businesses and families. In addition to the hygiene boxes, Soap Glow runs a monthly community cafe in the nearby Chapel Hall. For a £1 entry fee, visitors can enjoy food, a hot drink and the opportunity to connect with others in a welcoming environment. Amanda said, "At the heart of its success is the role played by the pupils themselves. Far from being a classroom project, Soap Glow is a fully active social enterprise with young people driving every stage of the process. From collecting and sorting cans to packing hygiene boxes and even helping out at the community cafe, the pupils see firsthand how their efforts make a difference. They follow the journey from an empty tin to a finished hygiene box, placed into the hands of a family who needs it." Kellyanne Dunn, head teacher at St Bernard's Primary, emphasised that the scheme is helping pupils gain life-changing skills beyond the classroom. She said, "They are learning about responsibility, teamwork and empathy, while also developing an understanding of financial literacy and the circular economy." Councillor Geraldine Woods, convener of communities, said, "I'd like to congratulate everyone involved with this project for everything they are doing to support people in the greatest need. The pupils are a true inspiration, and I wish them all the very best for their future endeavours." That article was written by Beth Oliver. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 10th of June, news. Glasgow Central Mosque locked down protest in Glasgow Belfast stabbing. By live reporter Amy Miles. Worshippers were locked inside Glasgow's biggest mosque as masked marchers flooded the city centre, prompting Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar to denounce a night of disorder, violence and racism on Scotland's streets. The unrest followed a stabbing in Northern Ireland, with protests spreading to parts of Scotland, including Glasgow. Anna Sarwar said, "The group had tried to march towards the mosque, which was nearby in the city centre. Glasgow Central Mosque, the largest in Scotland, had to be locked in as marchers appeared to be heading towards the building. Mr Sarwar, who is also an MSP for the city, said, "That is not the right response to this disorder, and actually it is not Glasgow. It is not the best of humanity. I think in many ways that demonstrates the worst of humanity." He emphasised that those inside the mosque had no connection to the Belfast attack. Mr Sarwar said, "The people inside that mosque who had to be locked in, with the doors locked and the gates locked, surrounded by police, what did they have to do with the attacker in Belfast? They would be equally horrified by the knife attack there. They too will want justice to prevail." Scottish Greens co-leader Ross Greer labelled the protesters as scumbags during an interview on BBC's Radio Scotland's breakfast programme. Mr Greer said, "From what I heard from people in Glasgow yesterday, you had grown men walking down Buchanan Street screaming at anyone who wasn't white, including children who were not white, screaming at them, send them home." First Minister John Swinney also condemned the scenes in a post on X. He said, "The scenes we saw in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Ayr last night are unacceptable. Scotland is a welcoming nation, and those who choose to make their lives here are valued members of our communities. Racism, hatred and intimidation have no place in Scotland. We must stand against it." Glasgow's council leader, Susan Aitken, has also condemned the masked men on street corners behind last night's city centre disorder, warning they are being pulled by strings far from our streets and not on the side of our communities. The unrest followed violence in Belfast, where 44-year-old Stephen Ogilvie was stabbed on Monday. He reportedly lost an eye in the attack. A man has appeared in court charged with the attack. Protests erupted in Scotland the following night, with some of those involved invoking the memory of murdered 18-year-old Henry Novak, with one banner saying "White Lives Matter." Videos circulated online appear to show violent clashes as marchers confronted members of the public in Glasgow city centre. 3 men, aged 31, 18 and 18, have been arrested and charged in connection with various offences in Glasgow during the evening. Police said 2 officers were injured and 3 members of the public were injured for the colour of their skin. Officers also dealt with disruptive but peaceful demonstrations in Edinburgh, Falkirk, Perth, Ayr and Paisley, where no arrests were made. Assistant Chief Constable Alan Waddell said, "Our priority is public safety, and last night we had the conventional police response to demonstrations across the country. We understand the concerns of people having about their communities, and will always balance the right to freedom of expression with the need to tackle crime without fear or favour. Officers responded to disorder and violence, including incidents in Glasgow where members of the public were attacked because of the colour of their skin. Officers were also attacked. I would strongly condemn that offending and send a clear message that there is no place for racism and violence in Scotland. Officers continue to be in local areas, and we are engaged with communities to show support and listen to concerns. We have an appropriate policing plan in place, including strong links across UK policing, to ensure we are prepared to deal with any escalation in disorder, and we will mobilise specialist resources if necessary. As part of this, our officers will support National Police Coordination Centre mutual aid arrangements for colleagues at the Police Service of Northern Ireland, following careful consideration to our resourcing requirements to ensure there is no impact to policing in Scotland. That article was written by Amy Miles and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 10th of June 2026, from the news section. Exclusive. Clydebank man threatens neighbour, then robs Shell station. This article was written by Tristan Stewart-Robertson, chief reporter. A young first offender hurtled from threatening a neighbour with a bread knife to robbing a service station and shouting, "Sorry." The morning spiral of an intoxicated Kevin Carter was laid out in court when he pleaded guilty to 2 violent incidents. Everything kicked off around 8:45 a.m. on October the 29th last year, when the 23-year-old's neighbour left his flat in Garscadden View and went onto the stairs. Carter was there with a kitchen bread knife in his left hand, wrapped in a black balaclava. They engaged in conversation for a few minutes, but the other man slowly moved backwards, aware, before running down the stairs. Carter went to chase after him, shouting, "I'm going to rob you." But he fell due to his level of intoxication, heard on Barton Sheriff Court. 2 hours later, he went to the home of his mother and her partner. He was shouting and ranting that he had done something wrong and was scared for his life. Again, he was notably intoxicated through drink or drugs, said Fiscal Deputy Maria Murdoch. At 11:40 a.m. he left, asking them to watch his dog and he would return shortly. He stated to his mother he was going to rob a shop as he had F***, KED, everything away, said the prosecutor. 5 minutes later, he went into the Shell service station on Great Western Road, going directly to the till and shouting, "I need money. Give me all the money in the till." He was acting in an aggressive manner and tried to lean over the till. His hand was in his pocket and appeared to be holding something. The member of staff was in a terrified state and opened the till, handing over about £100. As he left, Carter shouted, "I'm sorry about this." He left in the direction of Onslow Road and police tracked him down. I done it," he said. "It was all me. I'm sorry. I don't know why I done it." When cautioned and charged, he said again, "I'm sorry." A total of £90 was found in his mother's home. On June 2nd, he pleaded guilty to acting in an aggressive manner and uttering threats to rob the neighbour while having a knife. And he admitted robbing a worker of cash at the Shell service station. Defence solicitor Judith Rees said there was quite a lot in the background to consider, including significant childhood trauma. "This behaviour is not really the way he would usually conduct himself," she said. Sheriff John McElroy KC said he would allow Carter to remain on bail, but with a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew. "Be under no illusion," he said. "This is a case I consider passes the threshold that allows me to consider custody." Sentence was deferred for background reports until July 13th. That article was an exclusive written by Tristan Stewart Robertson and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday, the 10th of June 2026, from the news section. Paisley woman who joined knife attack loses murder conviction appeal. An article written by James Mulholland. A woman serving life for participating in a frenzied knife attack alongside her then partner has failed in a bid to have her murder conviction quashed. Stacey Balfour, 25, was ordered to serve a minimum of 16 years for her role in the death of Robert Fisher, 26, on July 23, 2023 at Maxwelton Street in Paisley. A jury at the High Court in Glasgow heard evidence how Mr Fisher was found critically injured in a flat in the Renfrewshire town. He died in hospital 4 days later. Jurors found Balfour and her then partner Cameron Woods guilty of murder following a trial. Prosecutors said Woods fatally stabbed Mr Fisher while Balfour was acting in concert with him. Jurors initially convicted Woods of murder and convicted Balfour on the lesser charge of culpable homicide. Trial Judge Lady Hood found the verdict against Balfour to be legally incompetent. In law, if Balfour had acted in concert with Woods in a murderous attack, she could not competently be convicted of culpable homicide while he was convicted of murder. Lady Hood then invited the jurors to reconsider their verdict on Balfour after giving them further directions in law. This resulted in the jury convicting Balfour of murder. At the time, Balfour's lawyer said the most appropriate course of action, in light of the culpable homicide verdict, was to record an acquittal. That motion was refused by Lady Hood, who sent the jury back out to reconsider their verdict on Balfour after giving them further directions in law. Lawyers for Balfour believe she suffered a miscarriage of justice. Earlier this year, defence lawyer Thomas Ross KC addressed judges at the Court of Criminal Appeal and argued that his client should not have been convicted of murder. He said, "It's clear, in my submission, that when the jury returned and attempted to convict Stacey Balfour by majority of culpable homicide, then they intended it to be a final verdict. My starting point is that the jury intended to convict her of culpable homicide." However, in a written judgment published on Tuesday, appeal judges Lord Beckett, Lady Wise and Lady Carmichael upheld Balfour's conviction for murder. Lord Beckett, who wrote the opinion, concluded that Lady Hood followed correct legal procedures and that the jury were entitled to convict Balfour of murder on the evidence available to them. Lord Beckett wrote, "It seems clear that the jury considered the appellant to bear joint criminal responsibility for Mr Wood's murderous assault. In a situation where the purported verdict did not signal that the jury had reached a final verdict of acquittal, and the verdict was inconsistent with her directions, the judge was entitled and, in our view, correct, to invite the jury to retire and reconsider the verdict. There is no miscarriage of justice, and the appeal against conviction is refused." Woods was jailed for a minimum of 18.5 years following the conclusion of proceedings. Jurors had earlier been told all three had been in a flat with other people in the Renfrewshire town. During this time, a witness said Woods had been spotted with a large kitchen knife. Meanwhile, Balfour had shown someone a small lockback blade attached to a set of keys, which was later used in the fatal attack. The court heard the attack was launched after the atmosphere between the group and the flat became volatile. Prosecutor Erin Campbell told the jury that it was clear the situation escalated and eventually led to Mr Fisher being stabbed in what amounted to a murderous attack. The victim managed to stagger out of the flat with blood on his face and on his t-shirt. A man dialed 999 as Mr Fisher groaned in the background, "I have been stabbed." He was taken to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, where he later died. During the trial, the court heard Mr. Fisher had 5 separate stab wounds and possible defensive injuries. Ms. Campbell told the jury, "If you are trying to strike someone in the head or chest, there are only 2 possibilities. Either you are deliberately trying to kill the person, or you are so angry and wild in the moment you have total disregard if the person lives or dies." The advocate depute told the court Mr. Fisher had been subjected to a frenzied attack. Woods was later stopped by police at a cycle track and found to be in possession of the murder weapon with Mr. Fisher's blood on it. Balfour's KC Thomas Ross said she had previously suffered a traumatic incident in 2014 and had been in a toxic relationship before the killing. Earlier this year, Ms. Campbell also addressed the appeal court and argued that the submissions made by Mr. Ross should be rejected. She said, "The judge was correct to refuse to allow the verdict to be recorded and to send them out again with additional directions. The trial judge took on the correct course of action in the circumstances of this case, and there has been no miscarriage of justice." The judges also refused in a bid to reduce the sentence given to Balfour. Lord Beckett wrote, "She participated in the attack. There is no indication that she sought to restrain her co-accused. She did nothing to seek assistance for their victim, instead removing herself from the scene along with her co-accused before attempting to run away from the police. Far from showing immediate remorse, she misled the police in their investigations. Allowing for her status as a first offender, her difficult background, that she fell within the ambit of the Sentencing Young People guideline, towards the upper end of its scope, and the importance of her being a parent of a young child, we are not persuaded that a punishment part of 16 years for her significant role in this vicious murder, committed with her knife, and for which she showed no remorse, was excessive. The appeal against sentence is refused." As written by James Mulholland and read by Ian McKenna.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Review and to tell your friends about our service.